get ready. This one is going to be a hot topic. It has been. It's going to heat up even more, especially within the next coming 24 hours or so. New York soon may become the most populous state in the nation to allow same-sex marriage. The vote could happen in a matter of days, as I just said, and supporters say they're closer than ever to making this happen, but opponents insist that they are not giving up. CNN's Mary Snow has this report.
Leslie Miller and Alicia Salazar, both doctors and mothers of 2 children, are hoping lawmakers in Albany will give them something they've never had, a legal marriage.
And I think we're sending a loud and clear message about whether our families and our life and our choice and who we are and our love is legitimate or not. And kids are watching.
Behind the personal stories, Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo is leading an intense political push to legalize same-sex marriage. A big supporter is New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg, an independent, who reached out to New Yorkers trying to get them to sway lawmakers.
My name's Mike, and I'm calling on behalf of New Yorkers United for Marriage.
Catholic New York Archbishop Timothy Dolan is trying to sway lawmakers to oppose the bill. He compares it to communist nations dictating things like family size. Last time I consulted an atlas, he writes, it is clear we are living in New York, in the United States of America, not in China or North Korea. Athletes are also weighing in. Former New York Giants football player David Tyree has joined the fight against same-sex marriage.
If this does come forth, this will be the beginning of our country sliding toward, it's a strong word, but anarchy.
Sean Avery of the New York Rangers, who is heterosexual, is a vocal supporter and visited the state capitol to lobby for it. Unlike 3 previous attempts in New York to legalize same-sex marriage, the campaign is closer than it's ever been. It's getting a significant amount of money from an unexpected source, Republicans and conservatives. Among the groups fighting to pass the bill, the Human Rights Campaign.
We've been able to raise a lot of money from Republicans. Look, I think it's, in some ways it's a sea change, but we're also seeing it nationally, and we saw it again on repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
The bill's fate rests with Republican state senators who are also being targeted heavily by opponents. Brian Brown of the National Organization for Marriage says Republicans who support it will face consequences next election. The group is pledging $1 million to finance primary challenges.
Right now, there are only 2 Republicans who have said that they are going to vote to redefine marriage. We are definitely going to be involved in those races. I think they are making a tragic mistake, and they need to be held accountable by the voters.
The New York State Senate could vote on this bill Monday. That's the last day of the legislative session. One of the things stalling it is that some Republicans are concerned about protections for religious institutions and organizations against the potential of lawsuits if this bill becomes law. Mary Snow, CNN, New York.
All right, Mary, thank you very much. I'm sure you've heard some discussion about this, but not one like you're going to hear coming up, because we're going to debate this issue with both sides. It's going to be a very authentic debate and no holds barred. New York State Democrat Daniel O'Donnell is in a same-sex relationship, co-sponsor of that bill. And then Brian Brown is a president of the National Organization for Marriage. They're going to join me after a very quick break. Don't go away. All right, look at that. This is really one of those. So goes New York, so goes the rest of the country, maybe the rest of the world. New York is the new battleground in the national debate over same-sex marriage. And if we're talking about this topic, tweet me some stuff, too, because I'm going to ask our guests, and you may give me some information I need. Supporters say they are close to passing the law. Possibly just one more vote in the state Senate would push it over the top as soon as next week. But opponents really are not giving up. So I want to talk about this with 2 key players in this debate. Daniel O'Donnell is a key sponsor of the bill in the New York Assembly, where the bill passed earlier this week, and I don't think he'll mind us saying he's Rosie O'Donnell's brother. Brian Brown is against the bill, and you saw him in Mary Snow's report just a couple minutes ago before the break. He is the president of the National Organization for Marriage. And again, listen, Mr. Brown, we've already said that you're against it. So if you're against it, and you're one vote away. You have Republicans who are supporting this new bill. Are you worried? Are you nervous about it?
Well, obviously it's crunch time right now, but, again, in 2009 we heard from the lead sponsor, Tom Duane, that the votes were there and the bill ended up being defeated 38-24. So the notion that this is a done deal is simply wrong. And what we're doing right now is there are thousands of calls going into senators. The legislature should not be deciding something as important as the future of marriage. The voters of New York should have the same ability as 31 other states. Every single state that this has been put to a vote, the voters directly have said, no, we know what marriage is. We know that it's unique and special, and we do not want it redefined.
Okay, so listen to this, though. You said the voters will decide, but 58%, this is a recent poll here, 58% of New Yorkers support same-sex marriage, while more than 1/4 of voters say the measure, along with extending rent regulation laws, it's a big deal here in New York, is one of their top 2 priorities. 58%. Are you sure you want to take it to the voters?
Absolutely sure. We saw polls just like this in California and in Maine, polls that were worded in a very biased way. I have absolutely no doubt that if the voters of New York had a free and fair vote and they could vote on the issue of marriage, they would vote to protect it.
Okay. All right. Let's give Daniel O'Donnell a chance to talk here. Daniel, what do you think? It's going to be Gay Pride in New York next weekend. On Sunday is the big parade. Do you think that people will be celebrating then?
Absolutely. I'm confident that with the governor's leadership, we're going to get this done. No one ever asked me in 2009 whether or not it would pass, and I would have told you that it wasn't going to pass. This time it's going to pass, and I'm proud to be part of the process that's expanding the rights of New Yorkers.
Okay, so listen, there is one senator here, state senator, who is on the fence. I think it's Greg Ball is a Republican state senator who's on the fence. But all of these talks and negotiations with the governor here, we're hearing that it may just sort of be a cover, because if one person is the one who decides, and they won't get support in an upcoming election, so they're trying to get maybe more than 32, maybe 35, 36 or more, and that is the negotiation tactic going on. What do you think about that, Mr. O'Donnell? Is that true? And then I'll ask you as well, Mr. Brown. Go ahead.
Well, look, I know Greg Ball very well. Greg Ball was my colleague in the New York State Assembly, and there's nothing Greg Ball likes more than attention about Greg Ball. Whether or not he's actually seriously considering this issue, I don't know. I've never spoken to him. I can assure you I've spoken to many senators, and the truth is that the vast majority of New Yorkers want this issue resolved. No one has ever been able to make the case that my ability to get a license for my state has any impact on anyone else. And finally, we're on the precipice of that happening. And so whether it's Mr. Ball or one of the other senators, I don't really care. We only need one, and we're going to get one.
What did Brian Brown, same question?
Well, I don't think that they're close to getting another senator necessarily, and I think that to say that redefining marriage won't affect anyone but Daniel O'Donnell is patently false. If we look at the consequences of same-sex marriage, we don't have to guess at them. When you're shutting down Catholic Charities Adoption Agency in Massachusetts...
Wait. Hang on. I know what you're saying. Hang on. Let me just say about that, because...
It's on TV.
Hold on.
Nothing to do with this bill. It's about licenses issued by the state. It has nothing to do with adoption agency.
Daniel, let me talk to Mr. Brown about that, because there are many people, especially legal experts, who say that that is a red herring, that religious institutions and adoption agencies won't be shutting down, and they are already going against the state's law as it is. So why are you saying that when most people, legal experts, say it's a red herring?
Their names. There was a letter just published by 3 of the greatest legal scholars of our time: Marianne Glendon at Harvard, Robbie George at Princeton, and a number of other folks who actually support same-sex marriage. None of them deny that there are major unintended consequences of same-sex marriage. And in Illinois, we heard these same arguments. It's not going to affect anyone other than the couples getting married. Wrong. In Illinois right now, there are 3 lawsuits because the Catholic Church, its adoption agencies, are being told that they have to shut down if they will not adopt children to same-sex couples. It's as simple as that.
I'll let you have the last word, Daniel, but there were lawsuits, too, when they overturned desegregation and all of those things. And if it had been put to a vote, let me ask you, producers, I'm going to need a little bit longer for this, so let's figure out. Brian Brown, the same thing. If you had taken that to a vote for the people, then you probably, we wouldn't have equality among races and even gender here as well. Do you understand that?
You're comparing apples to oranges. Laws against interracial marriage were about keeping the races apart. Marriage is about bringing the genders together. And that's why African Americans have some of the highest opposition to same-sex marriage. Somewhere around 70% of African Americans in California voted against same-sex marriage. And frankly, I work with a lot of African American leaders. I think they're tired of the civil rights movement being hijacked in the effort to redefine marriage. It's simply wrong.
Okay, so you don't look at this as a civil rights issue, right?
Well, it's not a civil rights issue to try and redefine our most fundamental and basic institution. No.
Okay. All right, Daniel, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off there.
Well, the Supreme Court has ruled that marriage is one of our fundamental rights. In the end, this is not a question about anything other than equality. The state issues licenses, and they issue licenses to people, and they're called marriage licenses. I'm not seeking a marriage in the church. I'm not seeking a pew in a synagogue. I'm not seeking anything from any religion. The cases that they constantly reference are not cases under the marriage law. There isn't marriage in Illinois. And so if, in fact, people want to change the human rights laws or the discrimination laws, they should make proposals in legislative bodies to do that. Me getting a license has no impact on that. And they know
it has a major license. Because
Hang on. Daniel finished, and then Brian, it's going to have to be quickly because I'm going way over here.
Okay.
Wrap up your point, Daniel.
They know that, and there's no impact.
Okay, Brian, go ahead. It's the last word.
There is impact. I encourage people to go and read the letter on our website at nationformarriage.org. There is an impact. There's a huge impact on religious liberty. And look, this isn't a question of expanding marriage. This is a question of fundamentally redefining marriage and saying that people like me and our organizations are the functional equivalent of bigots.
Hey, listen, we've got to go. We've got to go. I'm sorry, Brian, and I'm not cutting you off for any other reason except for time. So, Brian and Daniel, we can continue this conversation for a very long time, but I appreciate you both coming on. Thank you so much. I hope our viewers learned from this. It's going to be a really huge issue coming up on Monday. They're going to vote on it.